nothing quite like a gated Ferrari. It is the 8th wonder of the world. This is so much fun. Honestly, I would rather be diagnosed with Ebola than to keep filming out here. This is paradise, like, really? Drenched in sweat, swamp ass. On the bright side, I am in a Ferrari 360. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are in a 2001 Ferrari 360 Modena, fitted with a 6-speed gated manual transmission. Now, if you're on the used market for an entry-level supercar, let's call it, for, let's say, $120,000 to $140,000, you could have a McLaren 570S, could have an Audi R8, or you can think a little bit old school, think a little bit potential investment and buy a Ferrari 360 with a manual transmission. This car currently is for sale for 130 grand. It's got 39,000 miles on it. Available here at European Exotic Center in Tampa, Florida. Only about 20% of 360s came in manual of the 17,000 that were built throughout its 5-year lifespan. A fantastic first Ferrari. So let's go ahead and take it out for a drive. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. If you'd like to see all my future supercar content, including plenty of car reviews to come. Already, the 360 has become so much cooler just because of the transmission. It completely transforms this car. God. Revs to 8,500 RPM and it just sounds better and better the higher up you go in the rev range. Pardon me, Prius. So we are working with a 3.6 liter naturally aspirated V8, 400 horsepower, not that much torque to be honest, but I'm not missing it at all. 0 to 60 in about 4.3 seconds. Top speed of 186 miles an hour. This is such a refreshingly raw experience. Turn in is perfect. There's nothing quite like a gated Ferrari. It is the 8th wonder of the world. Oh, yes. That is incredible. The Ferrari 360 came out in 1999 as the successor to the Ferrari 355, one of the most loved and iconic Ferraris of all time, and it was quite the departure design-wise. As we know, every couple of generations there's a radical design change with the mid-engine V8 Ferraris. 308, 328 look pretty much the same. 348, 355 had a similar shape overall. 360 and then the 430 had a very similar shape, and now of course we have the 458, 488, F8 continued it even longer, and now the 296. But my point is, this was a pretty radical change for Ferrari. 355 to this was a much more rounded, bubbly shape, more modern, fixed headlights. From what I recall, which I don't because I was 4 years old, was that a lot of people weren't the biggest fan of this car when it came out. And with the 360, the F1 transmission was becoming increasingly more popular after being debuted in the 355, and so around 80% of these, 75-80% of 360s came with the F1 transmission. There really wasn't much demand for the manual at all at the time, and of course, times have changed. On the used market right now, the Ferrari 360 ranges from, you can get the more clapped out ones with the F1 transmission for around 80 grand. Great car for the money, but don't get a clapped out one. If it's clapped, you know, owned in Miami, just keep scrolling. Of course, after this, we had the F430, which was primarily like 90-95% F1 transmission. So because of that, a stick 430 is like double the price of an F1 430. That is not the case with the 360. Yes, there is a premium, but it's about a $30,000, $40,000 premium on average, which is still hefty, but so worth it. So good. To just have the full control over the revs and the throttle response is just so much more rewarding than having to deal with, let's be honest, now quite dated single clutch F1 transmission. Ferrari have countless iconic cars. The 360, I don't think is one of them. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's not a great car. It just never really, hang on one second. It just never really caught on, maybe like say the 355 or like the 458 did. I feel like it was a sort of awkward time period, transition period with Ferrari from the 355 to this. Design-wise, of course, which as I get older, this car looks better and better to me than when I was a kid. Especially this one actually has F430 wheels, and I think that makes the car look much more modern. This car is fitted with a 2B exhaust, which I think is a must on the 360. The stock car sounds good, but it's just a little bit quiet, especially compared to the 355 stock for stock. They were just a little quiet, so I feel like the 2B really helps. This is so much fun. I will say though, compared to the 430, it's down about 90 horsepower, and you do have to rev it out to feel that power. It doesn't really feel quick at all under 5,000 RPM. Once you get over that, it does come alive. Now, in the corners, I am in love with this old school steering feel. Lots of feedback through the wheel. It's not super darty and unnecessarily twitchy quick like the more modern Ferraris. It just perfectly weighted, and the steering wheel is simply the steering wheel. It's not a bunch of cluttered nonsense all over it. Not that I really hate the nonsense, but just everything's so overcomplicated now. I love the simplistic nature of this car, and I just love the fact that I can rev this car out and just not be using all my brain cells to focus on not dying. In the McLaren 720S, I'm just focused on not dying. In this, I can just take everything in, absorb the moment, feel all the vibrations and the sensation of speed, which there is still a sensation of speed. This is not a slow car. By today's standards, sure. Will I get beaten by an EcoBoost Mustang? Potentially. Can I still get into some serious trouble with this car and go to prison for life and deal with the colossal inmates and myself? Sure. It's a quick car to most people, and the sound paired with that speed makes it feel even quicker. The bottom of the car does like to move around a little bit. It can be a little bit twitchy at times. God, the throttle response is instant. You know, I've driven, honestly, probably close to 100 360s in my life. And so I do know how they behave and perform. And it was never like this. This is my first time driving a manual 360, and it is completely rewired my thoughts about the 360. Not that I never liked it beforehand, I always did, but you know, just with how fast technology advances and the cars that really came after this, you kind of look back on the 360 with an F1 and you're just kind of like, for 80 grand, it's a nice first Ferrari. And I'm not knocking that car. It is still a great car, but this is just so much better. With 25 horsepower over the 355, and it's a little bit lighter, really not much. So I wouldn't say it feels that much quicker than the 355, but I'm about 6'4", got a couple inches of headroom, plenty of leg room. From an interior standpoint, it is much more modern, at least at the time, of course. Now it is quite dated, although I kind of like how this interior looks though. I always like the iPad screen era cars. They look a little bit more timeless. The clutch is relatively light. Throws are pretty smooth. Sometimes it's a little stiff to getting into certain gears, but for the most part, it's just an absolute joy. And of course, being a Ferrari, the visibility, pretty top notch. Now, these aren't as rare as like a 430 stick, like I said, so I mean, investment potential, you certainly won't lose any money on this car. But I don't know if it'll just skyrocket in price immediately. I mean, it'll probably be another few years till we really start seeing that. There are some minor issues these cars can have. If you leave the car out in the sun too long, the buttons do feel like they have a bunch of dried up jizz and boogers all over them, and they're a little bit crusty and gross. But you can get those fixed pretty easily. The dash, if you leave it out in the sun too long as well, it will also start to bubble and peel. These are all user errors that you should learn to not do. Now, the 360 as a whole is pretty nostalgic to me because my dad actually owned a yellow 360 coupe back in 2016. We drove that car all the time. That was the first Ferrari I ever drove. Actually, one of the first supercars I ever drove, if not the first supercar. It was an F1 transmission, but honestly, it still was a fantastic entry point into the Ferrari brand and just the supercar world as a whole. And so I've got many memories in that car, and the smell of the interior of a 360, they all smell the same. The leather has a very distinct scent, even compared to other exotics. This one does have the Challenge grille, which I do like the Challenge grille, but I actually feel like it dates the car a little bit. I kind of like the smooth look of the standard rear end. You don't even have to be pushing it that hard to just let it rev out. You can just enjoy the sound at low speeds. Like, we're doing 45 right now, and I'm having a fantastic time. The ride is remarkably soft in this car. Still a supercar, but it doesn't beat you up. There is a sport mode, but really all it would do in this case is just firm up the suspension, and there's really no point of doing that right now. The 360 is actually a car that will sneak up on you a little bit if you're not careful. You can kind of feel the back end being a little bit twitchy at times and a little bit, let's just say it likes to move around a little bit. 360 is the only car that I've really accidentally almost spun out in. I was actually in my dad's 360 at the time. He doesn't know about this story. I took it out with a buddy of mine, potentially without him knowing. You know, I was a dumbass. I was like 18, so tires were not warmed up yet, and I took the corner not even like half throttle, and the whole back end shot out, and I was able to correct it in time. I've learned quickly that this car can be a little sketchy at times, and the traction control system in this car is not nearly as advanced as it was even in the 430. And really, it's not the best system in the world, so it's not really gonna save your ass. But this car we have for sale for 130 grand. It's got 39,000 miles on it, which you might be thinking, that sounds quite high. There have been plenty of recorded cases with these cars having well over 100,000 miles. As long as you take care of these cars, they will treat you well. Reliability is just fine in these cars. If you compare it to a Honda Civic, sure, it's unreliable. Servicing these cars is certainly less eye-watering than the 355, which required the entire engine to come out. This is all you need. Truly, this is all you need. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.